grew up in Spokane, Washington. I grew up a hard-charging, type A personality. There's so much that we inherit, and not everything that we inherit is good. I talk about AI as the ultimate mirror to humanity. And what do we do with that reflection? It's the question for humanity right
now. By the way, I really liked your book. Like, legitimately, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, good. That's what matters.
It was good. So, Jeff, the podcast, by the way, it usually starts with this question about where you're from. But I put an ask out to listeners and everyone else to see, hey, you got a question for Jeff. And people were really thoughtful in what they responded. So I had one, and I thought that we should, if you're okay with it, start with one of the questions from someone who gave it. Okay, cool. It was a great question. She says, what is the one thing you wish you would have known right before your upswing of success? And how does that translate to the book publishing journey?
It's a really good question. What I wish I would have known, or, what I know now, is that in the book, you read it, I talk about climbing my little mountain of success. And we're kind of told from the time we come out of the womb that, like, these are the answers. This is what we do. You go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and you're going to make it, and it's all good. And but I talk about in the book that when you get to the top of the mountain, there's nothing but a cold, howling wind. Just void. And that might even be a better description. Just void, and more void on top of that. So what I wish I would have known, and or I should say, like, internalized and felt in my heart, is that something that I've been an adjunct professor at BYU to thousands of entrepreneurial students. And one of the things that I often say to them is that the most powerful ideas are often the most simple, and therefore the most neglected. And this is one of those. So it's the most simple, but it's the most neglected. But the joy is in the journey. So, like, enjoy the journey. It was fun when, you knew nothing and you were just coming up. There was power in naivete. It's fun along the way. It's fun to build with people. It's all about people. And so your team, it's all about that. And then when you get to the top, it's fun to celebrate with your team, but it's not all it's cracked up to be. You're not going to have all the answers. So that's what I would say about any kind of journey to anywhere, is that it's about the road. It's not about the destination. And how did it apply to publishing? What it was the second part?
The second part of the question was, so I'll read the whole question again. So what is the one thing you wish you would have known right before your upswing of success? And how does that translate to the book publishing journey?
Yeah. Yeah, and same with the book publishing. Publishing the book, honestly, it's been a national bestseller, blah, 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 blah. I've done 150 or so public appearances, podcasts, TV, speeches. I loved creating the book. Creating the book was more fun than launching the book. The creative process is powerful. You're working with, the muse, the forces of the universe. Something creative is being channeled through you. At least that's what it felt like in my process. And so it was about the process. It's not about the actual publishing. The publishing part, I haven't enjoyed as much, honestly. I published it. I now am doing all these things, which I enjoy, but, there's a lot of them. And also, I'm not in control of any outcomes, and we never are, by the way. It's not about the outcome. And, we can do our best to affect any certain outcome or whatever, but, things are never going to meet our expectations, per se, like launching a new podcast, bro. Can you feel it? But it's about this process. It's about the creative process to get there. It's not about kind of the destination. So it was the same story in publishing. Very similar to, like, launching a business or, running for governor or whatever the case may be. It's about the process and the people. That's really all that matters.
It's perfect. Thank you. As a follow-up to that, my own question is, have you all kind of always had that perspective of understanding that the real value is in the journey?
No, period. Not even close. I mean, no. I grew up a hard charging type A personality. I'm an Aries astrologically. I don't know. I grew up in the LDS faith. I grew up in the Western United States. I'm the oldest of 6 kids. I'm just trying to, everything was stacked against me. And yeah, like, I don't know. Everything was stacked against me in that form or fashion. So absolutely not. This has been through a process of discovery and learning and I've, quote unquote, achieved a lot, but not necessarily maybe from a place of wounding, from a place of trauma. I think that we're all driven a lot more by that wounding. We're all wounded. Humans are wounded. I'm a grandpa, actually. I have an 18-month-old grandson.
Hey, congrats.
Yeah, man. I think I was a grandpa like 46, so it happens quick here in Utah, as you know.
Yeah.
And my 18-month-old grandson, he was at my house last night. He can't do anything on his own, hardly still, like we are totally dependent upon those from which we come as humans. And so this, what I call in the book, programming or scaffolding or, it's just part of the process. It's like part of the game. It's part of the gig. It's part of but that wounding, that programming doesn't need to define us for our entire lives. And often it defines us for way too long. And it leads to, shadow activity or I'll say patterns that we're blinded to. We don't even see. They're just kind of habitual. But we're humans, unlike AI, we can reprogram ourselves. We can deprogram and reprogram ourselves. And, that's powerful. There's so many powerful things about being human. And I think the key to actually humanity kind of going forward in the age of intelligent machines is to lean into those powerful things and all the exciting opportunities that we have as being human beings,
I like that. I like that you, towards the end of that answer, you said about programming and deprogramming. And that's something that I was wondering about while you're talking about how you had to learn this behavior. If there was a combination of learning new behavior or learning new things about yourself and also unlearning some things as you went through.
Absolutely. Not everything that we inherit is good or right or true. And there is a lot of good, right, and trueness. So you have to look both ways at the street. Don't touch the hot stove. There is a higher power, something outside of yourself to look to. Be honest. There's so much that we inherit that's good, but not everything that we inherit is right. And it's confronting that with ease, love, and grace that is the hard part. Like, how do we confront that or, without anger, without resentment? Now, anger and resentment might be part of the process, but at the end of the day, I think we need to look at these things with ease, love, and grace, look in the mirror and come back to ourselves. Again, in the book, I talk about AI as the ultimate mirror to humanity. It's just a cosmic mirror. It literally takes all of human data, how we interact with it, and then it just provides a reflection back to us. And what do we do with that reflection? It's the question for humanity right now. I'm speaking generally, is what do we do with the reflection of AI that we see? And what are we going to do with it and in the decade to come, let's say? And what we decide to do with it will really largely determine our future in so many ways.
I love what you just said about how not everything we inherit is good. To get the story here, I'm wondering, I'd like to go back a little bit earlier in your life and ask a couple questions there.
Yeah, we just kind of jumped in here, didn't we?
It's good.
And
that's the way
I'm
conversation.
Jeff.
Yeah.
Good to meet you.
I'm
Another
also
Jeff. Yeah.
This so this is good. My podcast is called the 4Fs podcast, and it's a play on words because my name is Jeff Clough. There are 4Fs in my name. And
I thought it was like food, family, football, faith, or something.
No,
like
it's
that.
not that deep, not that clever. Yeah. It's the whole story is it's 4Fs because there's 4Fs in my name, and then I always say, if you have if you run out of F's to give, then you can borrow some of mine because I got plenty of extra ones. So, well, I guess So let's go back earlier. So people can get a perspective of you, and maybe if they have or haven't read the book. How did you get? You're an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
I mean, for a long time, done a lot of business. How did you get your first taste of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I grew up in Spokane, Washington, the oldest of 6 kids, and grew up in a wonderful home, but that wounded me, like we're all wounded. Sure. And I've always kind of been a self-starting entrepreneur. It's just my personality. It's just how I'm wired. Now, I don't even know if when I was 12 or whatever, I knew the word entrepreneur. I can't. Sure. I might not have. My dad was an engineer, another E word, and a middle manager, engineer, much more technical than me. Very interested in like things. I've always been interested in people, not things. And I remember this is the best of my recollection. There was a knock at our door when I was about 13 years old, 12 or 13. I was doing homework at the kitchen table, and I heard my mom answer the door, and there was someone selling a carpet cleaning machine. And I loved basketball growing up. I mean, I still love basketball, but I love Michael Jordan. I played a little bit I was recruited to play college basketball. I loved it in high school. I traveled to tournaments, et cetera. But again, as the oldest of 6 kids, we didn't really have money to do that. And my mom, was polite, said thanks, but no thanks to the carpet cleaner. And I said, hey, Mom, call that guy back. Let's buy that carpet cleaner. We lived across the street from my elementary school. I'm like, I'll go across the street and clean the carpets at Ponderosa Elementary. Go Wildcats. I'll go to my junior high. I'll go to our doctor and dentist. I'll clean their carpets, and then I can buy basketball shoes. I can maybe travel to these tournaments, whatever. So, anyways, to my parents' credit, they were kind enough to do that. I kind of took out a loan, so to speak, with them, paid them back over time, and did make enough money to travel tournaments, to buy basketball shoes, et cetera, et cetera. And the carpet clean business was successful enough that I kind of passed it to my next brother when I became, 16 years old. I got too busy or, whatever, kind of passed it to my next brother who cleaned carpets for quite some time too. And so anyway, sorry, that is a long story. That's a memory road. That's when my first entrepreneurial venture. I started a tech company as an undergrad at BYU. So that was the first real business. But carpet cleaning was my start. What
I really want to know is I grew up with 5 brothers myself.
Okay.
And a couple sisters. And so what I want to know is when you sold your first exit, let's call it, when you successfully exited the carpet cleaning business, were the terms more favorable that you gave to your brother than the ones that your parents gave to you?
I don't even remember that. I think I just passed it down. Yeah.
No charge.
I think it was just
no loan sharking on that?
No, I think it was just a pass down.
Nice.
I think I paid my parents back for the carpet cleaning machine, and then they let me keep all the proceeds or profits, which was nice of them. And then by the time I was too old, I didn't have time. We had quite a client list. There were 10 people that I was, kind of large offices that I was cleaning carpet for. I think I just kind of passed it down to my brother.
I love that.
Yeah, it's cool. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in a small town outside of Boise, and then I moved to Salt Lake when I was a teenager.
Cool. What number are you in the brotherhood?
I'm 7 out of 8.
7 out of 8. Wow.
Yeah. So and I have 4 older brothers and 1 younger brother and 2 sisters.
Cool.
There's a crew of us. All right. So you mentioned that you started your first company when you were an undergrad. There are a lot of companies that people started when I was at BYU, and not that many of them actually really turned anything. This is like a legitimate company. I mean, you sold it, started it. Mindshare, is the name?
Mindwire.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mindwire. Thank you, Mindwire. I read it wrong.
That's all right.
Yeah, Mindwire. So can you tell me a little bit about? I guess here's the question that I have for it. What did you learn from that as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I learned that partners are really important. I had a great partner. He was a technology guy. He was a developer. He was getting his MBA at BYU. I was an undergrad actually in communications. I got an MBA later, but partnership really matters. We were friends. He was a great guy, but we had different kind of visions for the business. So we sold the business to a NASDAQ listed company. I sold it in 2003. So I would have been 26 years old. So in our mid 20s, he was a little bit older. But he actually didn't come with the sale. He kind of kept doing his own thing. That was part of the agreement. And we kind of split up because we couldn't see eye to eye on how to grow the business. He really loved services, and I wanted to productize the business because a product means scale, right? You can scale it.
Yeah.
And we kind of went back and forth on that for a couple of years. And in the end, when we couldn't really agree, we decided to sell the company. So I learned, I'd say, honestly, most about partnership. I also learned it was my first exit, real exit. And this is a true story. I spoke at BYU yesterday or the day before. I can't remember. I just got back I was in Seoul, Korea, like 48 hours ago or something. I'm totally messed up on my time. But so yesterday, I think I spoke at BYU, and I actually told this story. Growing this business was like a dream of mine, and I learned a ton about partnership. Somehow I had the audacity to negotiate like the sale as a 26-year-old communications undergrad at BYU. I was negotiating with a 52-year-old Harvard MBA who was the CEO of the publicly traded company. And I thought I could do this. I mean, again, naivete is powerful. You can apply that to life. You can apply that to business. You can apply that to so many things, that there's power in that at times. And so anyways, you can understand who won that negotiation. Obviously, the 52-year-old Harvard MBA. And so it was a great learning experience in selling my company, because since then, I've been involved in, I don't know, as an early stage investor, I don't know, 30 exits or 50, a lot of sales of companies. And so this was a good first experience and learning, mainly in what not to do and in mistakes and in, unnecessary drama. I don't know, all the things that I did wrong. So I'd say partnership and exiting a business. Yeah.
So what were the things that you say looking back that I mean, obviously things have worked out okay, but I mean, what would you say that you did wrong in that case, looking back now, or that you could do differently now?
Yeah, I wish I would have included my partner more.
Interesting.
Or tried to, I think I tried to bring him in as, part of this transaction, but he didn't really want to be. So we weren't on the same page. I wish I could have done it in a more, just in a more, as partners. So that would be one thing. The second thing is, it was a half stock, half cash transaction. The stock became worth almost nothing by the time we earned it out over 2 years. So, that's something I learned about, that, I'm not in control of what a publicly traded stock is worth. And so to, sell a business and then depend on, half of the output being on that, I wasn't in control of that. So I would have obviously structured that differently.
Interesting. Do you think being aligned with your partner, was that something that would have had to happen, maybe even years ahead of time, or was that a kind of a decision that you guys made in the moment when you decided to exit?
I think it was all along the way. I mean, you can never know the future exactly. Sure. You never know what's going to happen, but I think we could have worked harder to be on the same page all along the way. But then in the end, I wish we would have been more on the same page when we sold.
I get that. That makes sense.
This was so long ago. I have not been asked this many questions about this. Happened in 2003. So this is 23 years ago.
Well, keeping with that idea of going back, do you have any ideas or businesses that you've either thought about or, dabbled in a little bit along the way that maybe you didn't execute on for one reason or another? I think about them like the one that got away from a business perspective.
Oh, I don't think in that regard. I let things go when they're done. But it made, when you asked that, I did have one thought, which is just so funny. Tim Chavez is a good friend of mine. He runs the Faith Matters podcast. I've invested in his last 3 companies. He's helping to run a really exciting, fast-growing AI startup here in Utah called Jump. Anyways, he used to be in the basement of our building at Peak Capital when I invested in one of his companies. And I'm saying this, I wonder if he would remember this. We used to have this joke. It was when Jimmer Fredette was playing at BYU.
Yeah.
And so we would, I came up with this idea that I wanted to be able to just speak to my phone and have it talk back to me. And we called it Speak to Me Jimmer. So I'd be like, speak to me, Jimmer, whether it was research or whatever we're doing. Anyways, it was like Siri, right?
Yeah.
But before Siri. Now
man.
that was way too technical for Tim and I probably to build, but I knew that kind of automation was coming. You could feel it, and I wanted to have it then, and we didn't quite have it. Anyway, so that's just like again, something I haven't thought about for a couple decades, but that was a fun idea that we thought about back
It could have been a thing. And
Yeah,
I mean,
it was
Jimmer
a
was
thing.
everywhere. Jimmer was real. back
Siri
then.
could have been Jimmer. Should have been Jimmer. Yeah. And
How
now
could?
Jimmer's in venture capital in Utah. He's a great guy.
That's cool.
Yeah.
There's a little full circle there. So I had a conversation with a guy recently who made the change from being a builder. He'd run a handful of successful companies to then moving into investor mode. And he talked to me a little bit about, he said basically, it's a hard change. It's really hard to shift from being a builder owner to being an investor. And I was just curious if you had any thoughts on how you were able to successfully make that change, or if that was that even
Yeah,
like a thing, like a hard thing for you to do?
It is, but
was
I wouldn't
natural?
say it was hard. I don't know. It was natural. I'm kind of a natural mentor, teacher, and coach. And that's what a lot of investing is just being a shoulder to cry on, someone to call, someone to call to celebrate good times, someone to call to work through bad times. And that's kind of my natural nature. So it wasn't too hard, but I get what they're saying. I built my, we built our real estate private equity firm called Peak Capital Partners. I did it with two of my best buddies. We built our venture fund together. And so I was kind of always starting up, operating, as well as investing, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So they kind of melded for me. And again, maybe my natural kind of inclination is as, a coach, a mentor. And so it felt natural to me to mentor up and coming CEOs and young entrepreneurs.
Makes sense. I had a question that popped in my mind as you were talking, which is, who do you go to for advice? Do you have mentors and coaches? I mean,
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I'm laughing because I wish I was better at that. Fraser Bullock, who was the COO of the Utah Winter Olympics in 2002, Mitt Romney's kind of right-hand guy, he ran a investment company here called Sorensen Capital.
Mhm.
He's been a good friend and mentor of mine. We actually met in a church leadership scenario and then became, and then started doing some business together. He's now become a friend. We ski in the winters. So he's been a little bit of a mentor, but I haven't been great at that. My mentors, I would say, and I don't really have a father who's a mentor in that regard either, just to be honest with you. And so I've done a lot of that kind of on my own. I wish I would have been better at reaching out. I have great friends. I have a wonderful wife. I talk about Sally a lot in the last book written by a human, the book that I wrote. I talk about how I think I even say like she's like my guru, and she is in so many ways. And so Sally's been my best friend since I met her 26 years ago. Yeah. But it's a great question. I think it's important. And, it's pressing in 2026. I would say that AI's become a good mentor, friend for me. It's not human. It's not real. But even just last night, I was talking to it till quite late, sharing with my team a couple thoughts that it had. And so this is the interesting thing as we get into more and more, let's say, intimate relationships with machines. How do we balance that with, human relationships are messy and they're meant to be transformational, and they are. That's not how relationships with machines are. So
it sounds like, although there maybe isn't one specific type of person or one specific person that you go to all the time as like a consistent mentor, you've obviously figured out ways to fill that need with different types of relationships. I think that's useful. Because not everyone
I'd say more even just like peers, great friends. Most of the well-known entrepreneurs in the state are good friends of mine, and we've kind of grown up together, you could say, and we've helped each other, and that's something special about, I think, our community.
I like that because I think not everybody has like a one mentor in their life that they can reach out to and call. And so being able to piece it together from other people, I think is really, really valuable.
Yeah.
I have a question about your spouse, if I may. Are you guys pretty? And are you guys similar in that way? Or are you fairly different?
We're totally opposites. Yeah. We're totally different.
Okay.
I'm outgoing. I'm push boundaries. I'm a risk taker. I'm a people person. I mean, she's the opposite. Now it's been 26 years. We've met in the middle on most of these things after 26 years. Like I've come her direction. I find myself, the older I get, actually, I'm less outward and more inward. She's more outward and less inward. And so, you meld together and grow together. But, I'd say in most ways, Sally and I are completely different. Yeah.
This is a little bit of a subject change now. Thanks for humoring me on that question. But you made a big change recently in this decision to write a book, right? I think this is your first book.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yep.
Why did you? I'm going to use a word here and correct me if I'm wrong. But when I was reading the book and then hearing you talk about, you talked about something being channeled through you. Mm-hmm. It seems like you felt really compelled to write this book.
Yeah.
Could you tell me about why you felt compelled?
How did you feel as you read the book? Like, what was your experience with the book? I'm just curious. Tell the listeners, or honestly.
I'm pausing here because like a couple of the insights that I had are like really, really personal.
Yeah.
And like I even hesitate to them, but
well, you don't need to share, but like just your pause says enough. And just your pause says enough. Like that's the experience I wanted people to have. I wanted them to be different because of reading it. Yeah, I wanted 100%. Them to have like insightful experiences like you had that would change their life, for the better, would help them look at things differently. And I know that's been the experience for thousands of readers because I hear every day I get, 1 to 5 messages from readers I know and that I don't that are like, wow, this changed my life, or this made me see this differently, or, whatever else. And so that's what I wanted to have happen. I think that's what can happen when real art, so to speak, is put out into the world. I viewed the last book written by a human as my little piece of art. I would even say like an offering to the divine. And when I say divine, I'm saying to humanity, because I believe that we are divine. And so it was my little best effort as Jeff Burningham. I put my best efforts into writing a book that would resonate with humanity, that would touch people like yourself that I don't even know, and make a difference in their lives. So it was a transformational experience. It was transformative for me. And, it continues on. I have 2 podcasts today. I have, I continue to speak about the book a lot. And that's a blessing and a gift to me and to those who are, those who run into the book and pick it up and take a look at it.
So the book's called The Last Book Written by a Human Becoming Wise in the Age of AI, which when I picked it up, I thought, hey, this is a business and technology book. But as I read through it,
gotcha.
Which is great. No, well, yeah, that's what I was going to ask. So if you had to put your book, in this section at Barnes & Noble, where would you put it?
Yeah, I think the book is very unique. I wouldn't even like put it in a section maybe, but like philosophy or awakening. I don't even know if awakening is a section,
It's
but
a new section.
It's a new section. I create my own section called Awakening and put the last book written by a human there. But probably philosophy or, it's a mishmash of like memoir, business, politics, awakening, spirituality. I think mainly philosophy. And so, I don't know. I try not to pigeonhole it. I mean, that's the other thing about art is, I don't know. It can't necessarily be defined, and people experience it in different ways. This is the beauty of art, and it's the transformational power of art is that it can't be put in a box. It can't be just one thing to one person. It can be thousands of things to thousands of people. So I know for me, the experience of expressing the book, of writing it, was on one hand torturous, so painful and hard, because I was going through that excavation process. I was looking inside myself. I've walked the walk in the book. Like, the book isn't hollow. It's me. It's my heart. It's the process that I've gone through. And I think it's the process that humanity is being called through here in March of 2026 in the age of AI. It's a crucible that we must pass through together. It's time for us to transform and evolve. And if not, I'm worried about our future with AI. If we do, I think that AI can help us transform and evolve in beautiful ways that could make this existence, make life, make existence better for so many of us. That's the call right now, I think, for humanity.
Are you afraid of AI, would you say?
Yes. If you, absolutely.
So tell me more about that.
Well, like, if you're not afraid of AI, okay, let me step back here, people. Everyone step back. I like to sometimes answer. It's very easy for me to answer questions. I'm an open book. I can't mask. I just tell you how I really see it. Am I afraid of AI? Yes. Hell yes. And if you're not, you don't understand what AI can become or could become. Now, so period. But am I afraid long term? No, because I believe in humanity. I believe in God. I believe in the universe. I believe in what we're doing here. I believe it will all work out the way it's supposed to and in a beautiful way. So, but is there a lot of pain for humans in store? Unfortunately, it seems like we need pain to change. And so, yes, there is a lot of pain coming because I think we need to change. I think we need to transform. I think we need to continue to evolve. And the way that happens oftentimes is through pain. And I think that AI will bring a lot of that via disinformation, via job loss, via who knows what else. And so I talk about in the book how AI is a metaphorical, judgment day for humanity. Again, it's a cosmic mirror that allows us an opportunity to pause, reflect, and decide where we go from here and how we want to show up in the world, how we want to change in order to ensure that AI is focused on human flourishing instead of human division or destruction, which it could be.
So I'm
a long-term optimist, a short-term, pessimist or realist.
Short-term pain, long-term gain.
Yeah, that's what I hope for. That's what I think. I mean, that's why I wrote the book. I think this is a conversation that needs to be had now. The book now has been out. It came out August, so 8 months ago. And so this is a conversation I've wanted to have and start, for years. And by the way, I am encouraged. I'm not the only one talking about it. Like, I do see more and more talk around like, wait a second, what is AI really? Why is it here now? How is my intelligence different than this intelligence, or is it? I see these types of conversations being had at a higher level, and that's great. That's what I wanted to have happen, and that will continue, I think, to build.
Do you think that as you have these conversations, does it seem like your perspective on how you just described our relationship with AI is isolated, or do you think that that the people you're speaking with share your perspective on AI as it being viewed as a somewhat of a cosmic mirror and something that probably is going to have some pain in the short run, but ultimately will be a benefit?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm not sure. I think that the take that I've had on AI has been fresh and different and new. So no, I don't think that most people see it the way that I have. I think more and more people are seeing it more and more in that regard. But especially when I launched the book 8 months ago, I think it almost went over people's heads a little bit, or is a little futuristic, and it still continues to be, but it feels less so even just in the last 8 months than maybe it did 8 months ago. So no, I'd say that my views are fairly uncommon, but becoming more common generally. Is that what you were asking? Sorry.
I was just curious, just kind of how the people that you're speaking with, your peers and other people around are viewing ad.
Yeah, I think there are some people that view it in the ways that I do too. Like and people are viewing it more and more like that. People are taking a pause to say, like, wait a second, as our machines become more and more intelligent, what does this mean for me? What does this mean for my family? What does this mean for humanity? What does this mean for my job, for my kids in school, whatever? And so it's time for us to become more wise. As our machines become more intelligent, humans are asked to become more wise, or else, we shall see. Yeah.
It's a perfect segue to my next question, which is, what's the difference between information and wisdom from your view?
Yeah, it's a good question. Let me just say that intelligence and or information has been commoditized, which is a good thing in a lot of regards. Again, I was just in Bali, Singapore, Korea. I've traveled to 70 countries or so all around the world in my life. And I've always been a believer as I've spent time. I lived in the Middle East for 4 months. I've always been a believer that opportunity is not evenly distributed. As someone who grew up in the Western U.S., I grew up in this privileged position, but I think talent is. And so there's talent all around the world, but the opportunity hasn't been the same. So one of the great things about AI is it's bringing information and intelligence. You can have the smartest tutor in your pocket at all times, no matter where you're at in the world. So as long as you know good prompts to ask it, as long as you're thinking creatively, as long as you're willing to ask the question and to listen and learn, man, it can be a great leveler for so much of what's going on. However, that also means that knowledge work changes. And the differentiator, I would say, now becomes wisdom. Leadership is, I just wrote a piece that came out a week or so ago in Fortune magazine. And I basically said that as intelligence is commoditized, the new differentiator for leadership and the new skill, it isn't like this intelligence, it's wisdom. So it's knowing what questions to ask. It's knowing how to apply AI in a way, again, that focuses on human flourishing. This becomes the new differentiator, actually. You could say, and I could talk about this forever, I'll get passionate here, our humanity becomes the differentiator. The more human we are, the more different from the machine we are, and the more powerful we can become. I mean that in a good way. Like, we can become better by leaning into humanity, by leaning into the beautiful mess of what it means to be human. We can find our purpose, we can find our power, and we can help each other get there.
I like that. Thanks.
So it's kind of a contrarian view. I kind of flip everything. I would say in the book, I kind of flip everything on its head a little bit, or a lot of things,
Speaking of things that someone could see as juxtaposed, pretty early in the book, you talked in there about how AI is both the impediment and the way.
Yeah.
And I was just curious. I mean, obviously I read the book, but I'd love to hear your thoughts here now about how AI is both the impediment and the way.
Well, every minute that I spend with my AI is a minute that I'm not spending with another human. And we need to lean into our humanity. We need to lean into human relationships.
Yeah.
So it's an impediment in that obviously we know that technology can be addictive. It can keep us from real human interaction, et cetera, et cetera. And AI thinks it knows everything, and it doesn't have wisdom. It may know everything, but it doesn't know how to apply everything. And so it's an impediment for several reasons: time, resources. It constantly is kind of glazing you. You're the smartest, you're the best, which just isn't true. So in those ways, it's an impediment.
Yeah.
But I think here, as is often the case for humans, the obstacle becomes the way. And so the obstacle in this sense is of AI, actually, if we lean into it with wisdom, becomes the way for humans to continue to transform and evolve in beautiful ways.
This is a little bit of a shift here, but I was thinking about, as you're talking about leaning into humanity, and part of that is our own intuition. You talked about intuition in your book. And something I've thought about really on a personal level, I thought about this a lot as a book, is you talked about leaning into your intuition, trusting it, always leaning toward it. What I was wondering is, personally, you also talked in your book about the governor's race, right? And how that was hard.
Yeah.
What I'm wondering about in this case is, how do you learn to trust your intuition again after you make a decision? Let's say, so here, this is a tricky question. I'm going to try to summon my way through it.
I think I got your question. All
right.
Keep going.
Okay. I was just basically, you trust, you feel something. You're like, I'm going to make this decision, and I think it's going to work out, and it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you made the wrong decision.
Yeah.
So how do you then, how do you reconcile those two things and get back to trusting your intuition again?
This life is not about outcomes. Life is not set up to meet every desire that we have, or like, this isn't a place where we have expectations and those expectations need to be met. I would say expectations are almost worthless. They're actually unnecessary. Any expectation. Do you see, in the sense that I showed up this morning, I'm jet lagged, I can't come in, I meet a new person, we jump right in, we're having this conversation. I have no expectation. I have no cherished expectation. I'm here trying to be present, trying to be my best self, saying some words that I hope are helpful for someone. And that's my expectation, is to hopefully keep breathing, to stay alive, to help. And so what do you learn? You focus less on outcomes and more on the process, more on the journey. That's what you learn. I know that this is hard, by the way. Losing the governor race was a very public defeat for me, and I talk about it in the book. It wasn't even that I lost, it was the way I lost. The most critical months of the campaign were March, April, May, and June of 2020. Rudy Gobert shut down the NBA like March 6th. Utah shut down March 7th. I'm making, by the way, these dates might, this is kind of, all of a sudden I was quarantined to my home office, talking to the back of my iPhone, and having no idea if I was talking to 5 people or 500 people, because it took us, you'll forget, it took us a couple months to figure out Zoom, or at least, and so, like, it was like the referee came out and called the game at the beginning of the fourth quarter. And I was running against Spencer Cox, our current governor, John Huntsman Jr., former governor, 2 great politicians. I was always an underdog, but I had a chance. When the pandemic hit and everything shut down, there was no chance. Because whenever markets are disrupted like this happens in financial markets, political markets, and otherwise, there's a flight to safety. And there's no way that the new guy, Jeff Burningham, an outsider, an entrepreneur, is going to really have a chance to win. So here's my point, to come back to your question. When I was deciding to run for governor, global pandemic was not even in my purview. Like, I didn't even know what that was. Yeah. But that was not on my list of possible outcomes for a governor race. So I had a real slap in the face, and we all did. We all suffered during the pandemic because of different things. And that did not meet my expectation. Now, I can either let that tank my hope and and of course it did for a while, or I can allow it to hollow something out in me, to let go of outcomes, to let go of expectation, and then to go into my next journey, writing this book or whatever the case may be, with a little less hold on expectation, a little less hold on a desired outcome, letting the flow of the universe take things where it wants to go. You could say letting the will of God unfold in your life. I mean, we talk about that as faithful people, but do we really embody that? Do we really believe that? We believe it when things are going our way. When things don't go our way, that is much harder to embody. And I'm talking about all this because I think it's critical that we embody these lessons in the age of artificial intelligence. There are going to be twists and turns here that we can't foresee, that no one knows. We have to believe that there's a divine force behind what's happening here. I believe that there is. And although we can't see around corners, we don't know why this or that is happening. There is a purpose to it all. And I think if we lean into that with faith and trust, it benefits us.
During your answer just now, you did something really specific, and I want to know if it was intentional or just something that happened. But you were talking about letting go, and you closed your eyes and you took a breath and you went like this and you released something. And which made me wonder, do you have like an intentional practice around feeling those types of things and like really understanding and releasing them? To me, because literally to me, I watched you this. It looked like you took a second, breathed in, like you were almost reacting. Breathe
Yeah.
let it go. Is
Yeah.
this something that you do in your
Absolutely,
in your life at
of course. Yes. My meditation practice has become sacred to me. I never meditated before the governor race. I've meditated every day since the governor race. It is important to me. There's no right or wrong way to meditate. You just sit down and try to go inside, become quiet, become still, to just start to feel what's inside of you, because the answers that we're really looking for are not outside of us. They're inside of us. But in order to realize that, understand that, we have to quiet the outside noise. So was that intentional? Meaning, did I think about it? Absolutely not.
Sure.
It just happened.
Yeah.
Was it intentional in that my body immediately knew kind
That's
of
what I
like
was
what
thinking,
to do? And am I trying to just go with the... Absolutely. And so, of course, it got in this little meditative whatever.
It felt like a reflex almost.
It took a breath, so it just automatically happened. And so, but that's become a very important practice to me, as along with several other things. But I think it's critical. The mirror is turning us inside.
Yeah.
As machines become better and better at doing so much of what we're used to doing,
Mm-hmm.
what are we left with? We're left with our beings. Now, we don't understand being. We've become, and I was addicted to doing, you could say. And a lot of America or the world is addicted to doing. We've been told that if we do more, we can be more.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just not true. We already are. We already are everything. We just need to remember that, to recollect that, to have that come back in. And again, these are easy words to say in a cool podcast studio wherever we are, with water, and but this needs to become embodied.
Mm-hmm.
This needs to become when the shit hits the fan, then things don't go like we want them to. We need to embody this. We need to live this way. We need to feel this way so that we can show up as our best selves for the people we love. And that's going to happen in the age of AI. Bad things are going to happen, I guarantee. And we need to show up as our best selves. And the way to do that is to go inside, to remember who we are, and to bring that kind of higher self, that divine self forward.
I like that. I'd love to hear a little bit about like what your practice looks like what you do. Would you mind? Because I think that's helpful.
That's helpful. Well, let me just say how I started. I just started on an app.
Okay.
So if you're curious about meditation, I just start with, there's several, waking up, and I started with waking up, and there's several others, Headspace. And
sure.
I just started with an app.
A guided meditation.
Yeah, guided meditation, 10 minutes a day. So that's how I'd start. And then after a year or so, I didn't want, I did waking up, let's say, I'm going to use round numbers here, for a full year every day. So 365 days. I did a 10-minute guided meditation. And I just went through the process for a year. And then that faded away. I didn't want the guidance. I didn't need that. And I wanted more stillness and quietness. So I let that go. And then I went to a silent retreat, and I was silent for 5 days, as a meditation retreat for 5 days of silence. And that changed my practice. And it's called a practice for a reason. It's because you're practicing it, and that practice will morph and change. And now, I sit for 20 minutes a day in silence, just in my own meditation, without guidance, etc. Again, there's no right or wrong way to meditate. That's the point, is feel into it. And two things you can do today if you want to start. One, download an app and start the guided meditation series. Or two, just sit, be quiet, and do nothing for 10 minutes today. That's going to be harder than you think. It's going to be a disaster. Yeah. You're going to be thinking about dinner, or, what I did wrong, or what's coming up, or why am I doing this? Waste of time. I'm doing it wrong. You're going to judge yourself. This is part of the process to work through. So just let it be and just commit to it for a month. Give it a month of 10 minutes a day of just sitting in stillness and see what happens.
Do you remember how painful that first meditation was for you?
I don't remember.
Uncomfortable, I should say.
I don't remember the first exactly, but dude, just look at, I mean, you read my book.
Yeah.
Look at my bio online. Look me up on LinkedIn, whatever. Look at what I've done in the first 40 years of my life. I mean, I built billion-dollar companies. I ran for governor. I've been a bishop in the Mormon church. I've had 4 kids. I have done, quote unquote, I've won every award. I've done check, all the things you can. You have no idea how painful this was. But let me just say to everyone listening, if I can do it, anyone can do it, because I was the most distracted.
Really?
Oh yeah. The most distracted, focused on doing person that I knew. I've always been, mindful, aware. I've always loved people, and I'm not saying these things, I don't want to be too harsh on myself. I've always had such a good heart.
Yeah.
I just saying that I was so caught up in the rat race, that it was extraordinarily painful. I don't remember the first meditation exactly, but I remember the first year, and I was just terrible at it, judging myself. But this is what you're trying to break down. You're trying to see where you judge yourself, what you can let go of, what things actually really feel like inside and not outside. I think that external validation is basically worthless, yet we live so much in that space. I understand why. It's about being human and being completely vulnerable when we're young, but it doesn't serve us in the end. It doesn't. I turned 49 in a couple days.
Hey,
and I know that.
Happy early birthday.
2 days, March 29th, I turned 49. External validation doesn't really have a significant purpose, I think, for a 49-year-old adult. It's not, it just doesn't matter. And so, but that only comes through some sort of mindfulness practice. Anyways, I feel like we're getting off track and rambling here, but
something that stood out when you're saying that is that you said you were distracted. And I think from the outsider's perspective, which also goes to your point that external validation, the value of external validation is, nothing, partly because people who aren't you don't really know what's going on. So, but from the outsider's perspective, I would have said that you were focused, that not distracted. And so I just think that's an interesting comparison to me.
You mean growing up?
Yeah, you talked about how you'd done all these things, but you were heavily distracted. And I think
I was just trying to do too much at once. So my life was a mess because I was trying to close this deal and work out this relationship and be a dad. And I was just constantly doing everything instead of I don't know how you felt here in this podcast studio, but I walked in a couple minutes late. Sorry, I didn't know where I was going, and I'm just here.
Yeah.
I don't even have any idea what time it is. I don't know what else is going on in the world. I know there's a lot going on, but it doesn't matter because I'm sitting with another human being across the table, and we're having a conversation, and this is what matters right now.
Yeah.
I believe that time is an illusion. The only experience of time is ever in the present moment. So everything in the past is in the past. We're not going back. We can't go back. We ruminate about mistakes we made in the past. We beat ourselves up about mistakes that we can't fix. The past is what it is. The only way that I can, quote unquote, fix something in the past or make it better, let's say, is in every present moment. It's in the present moment. And then we ruminate, and this applies to AI. We think about an unknown future. We project something in the future that creates anxiety in our bodies. The future is unknown. I believe it's up to us. We're deciding it on a moment by moment basis. But the only time that has potential is the present moment, because it's the only moment that exists. It's the only time that exists. I've come to believe that the quote unquote life of God, or of any higher power is experienced in every present moment. So time, life, existence is a never-ending string of present moments. So the only way to affect change, the only moment that has potential, it's not the past, it's not an unknown future, it's right here and now. How do you show up right here and now? What can we do right here and now that will, make a difference and hopefully make the future better and build a beautiful path for ourselves. Anyways, we're getting philosophical now.
Please
and
keep going with it. I
yeah.
love this. I love this line of thought.
Yeah. So this is the moment that matters.
Yeah.
And it's the only moment that ever matters. And right as I say that, it passes. And now we're in the next one. So show up as your best self in every moment that matters. That's the best way for a beautiful future ahead for all of us.
Speaking of the past, present, the future, when you've held something really close to you that has been a big part of your life, and you decide at some point it's time to let it go, big or small, how do you address that without being resentful of it in the past?
Yeah, I almost feel this in your voice, everyone's working through something like that. So I just want to pause for that and say, I feel it. I think the process, like every process, there's some maybe best practices or some high level principles, but then every process is unique and individual. So it's up to you to figure out how to do that. I'm speaking to you, Jeff, but
Thanks.
To every listener, it's up to you to figure out how to do that. But the way that you let it go is there's some best practices, and meditation is helpful to that. You return to your nervous system and you try to calm your nervous system in a way that is soothing and will allow you to let go of past pain and trauma. How do you do that? You do that in the present moment, and you do that through a mindfulness or meditation practice. There are hot, cold practices that are helpful in this. Doing flow activities that bring you joy, especially in nature. So I love to mountain bike. I love to wake surf. I love to snow ski. Those can release a lot of tension and pain. You obviously can study and to spend great time in podcasts or books or whatever the case may be that can be helpful. And then I don't think letting go, it's funny, letting go isn't something you can force. It's something that happens naturally. And it's by doing some of the things that I spoke about consistently, that your nervous system, that your body, that whatever will let go. And it will do it with ease, love, and grace, not with resentment. Because the truth is, when you quote unquote, let go of something with resentment, you haven't let go. That's what it means, is that you haven't really let go of it.
Point.
You haven't really let go of it. If you still feel resentment, you may have let go of a lot of it, but you still resent some of it. You need to let it all go with ease, love, and grace. And that's the practice that you could say that this is our core practice, or one of them for sure, in life, in existence, is we're learning to let go of past pain and trauma. That's the practice. That's what existence is for. And our bodies help us do that. We're embodied right now because our bodies help us to do that. They help us with that process.
There's a quote in the book that true transformation happens through love and not judgment. I really like that.
Yeah.
And I was curious, how did you come to that understanding, or that, let's call it wisdom? How did you come to that piece of wisdom?
Yeah, through life experience, through all my life experience. I hope people will check out the book, the last book written by a human. Sold everywhere. It's on Audible. I read it. I read it.
It's a great book.
Yeah, the point is, the way that I could answer that question is just through my whole life experience. So I turned 49 in 2 days. It's through 49 years of ups and downs and of living and experiences. I love experience. I love people. I love cultures. I've had a lot of varied experience. I've done that intentionally, on purpose, and I've done that because I've wanted to learn. I wanted to see. I've wanted to grow. And one thing through all my experiences has become very apparent to me. It's one of my top 5 learnings in life, and that is that almost always there are obviously abusive situations or edge cases where this isn't the case, but in almost every instance, love is the answer. So that's one simple thing to hold on to. In anything that you experience today, The answer is love. With a crying child, with a spouse that disagrees with you, with the person that cuts you off in traffic, with whatever. Love is the answer. It's not about judgment. Like, why did that person cut me off? Those, what, blah, 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 blah. You've cut people off before. Maybe there's a good reason, anyways, you don't know. Love is the answer. And so that's one of the chapters in the book, is that love is the answer. So that's one of my core beliefs. And through all my 49 years of experience, all the varied experience I've had, which has been a lot in 49 years, love is the answer. And I'd say 99% of the time, that is the right answer. And so again, that's a hard practice. It's hard to do that. It's hard to embody that and feel that. But yeah, that just becomes self-evident, I think, through living.
It's funny. I don't know. I was thinking while you're explaining this about love versus judgment, and you give the example of cutting someone off and how we've all cut someone off in traffic. But isn't it funny how we justify it for ourselves and we think, oh, I'm on my way to something important, so
I'm late.
It's okay. I'm still a good person, but that person, we don't give them the same. We don't give them the same. So to your point, if there's more love and less judgment, someone else is probably, we don't know. Maybe they are an asshole. I don't know. Maybe they're on their way to something, a daughter's birthday or something else, and you just never know.
Well, you've just uncovered one of the core issues of life. We're always we are the star of our own show. We are the main character in a play that is being played out here as humans, and we get to decide how we show up for that. That play, for that character. And do we show up as our best selves? And do we think that other people are outside of ourselves? Or, one of the things that I learned at running for governor, and I talk about in the book, is that no matter our differences, as human beings, we always share much more in common than we do different. It doesn't matter if you're liberal or conservative, rich or poor, white, black, Mormon, Muslim, whatever. We always share more in common than we do different. So is that person that cut you off really different than you? Are they really even outside of you? Is there a divine unity here that unites us more than any division ever could? These are just questions for listeners to ponder and consider. These are meditation questions to consider, to think about or to feel out. And, my experience tells me that no, there is no actual, although we perceive a separation between you and I right now, Jeff, there really is no separation. We all are in this together. And that's why it's critical that we face the challenges ahead with AI with ease, love, and grace.
You talked about, just now I was thinking about, were you talking about meditation questions? Are the prompts in your book also, do you consider them also somewhat meditative questions? Yeah,
it's interesting. There's been someone on LinkedIn that has gone, I think Patrick, this is still the case, that's gone through every single prompt. So how many chapters are there? 33 or something chapters? Sorry, I don't know. In the book, they're short chapters. It's meant to be very readable and fast paced. And they've done a reflection online about every single one. So yeah, it's meant to be a journaling exercise. It's meant to be, I had a seminary teacher friend of mine just text me yesterday about a prompt that he read in the book. I should say an acquaintance. I don't know him that well. He was my daughter's seminary teacher, and just sent me his kind of journal prompt, his own text on one of the prompts in the book. So I think kind of like we prompt AI, I was prompting the humans that read my book to take a second and to think and to ponder some of these questions, and then to, whether they journal about them, whether they text me about them, whether they post them online, whether they just sit and reflect in them, or whether they skip them altogether. That's fine. And so there are prompts at the end of every. Did you enjoy that part of the book or no?
I did enjoy it. I did enjoy it. I listened to it on audiobook, and I also really enjoyed hearing you read the book. I always enjoy a book more when the author reads it. There are little inflections that you would miss otherwise, and
you probably heard me chuckle a couple of times. I got a little emotional a couple of times. Yeah,
it was good. You really can understand that. It just brings it to life a little bit more. So yeah. I did like that. And I was curious, did you do the prompting exercises yourself as well?
Yeah, I mean, I would do them as I wrote them
Mhm.
or as I'd reflect on the chapter, that's where the prompts came
Okay.
from. And then, yeah, so I guess you could say I did the practice as I was creating the prompts, and
Makes
they
sense.
felt right. And, the prompts, like everything else in the book, were edited several times, or,
Sure.
I adjusted it based on what I felt like I should say or do or whatever.
Was there one that stands out more than the other ones that was really connected with you personally?
Good question. The one that I can think of or remember right now is just, what does loss make possible? Maybe everything. Something in that vein. Like what does letting go make possible? Whenever we let go of something, we're also opening ourselves up for something new to come in. And that might be one of the most important things that we can do here in the age of artificial intelligence.
Yeah. I think that was a good one. I think that's what's prompted the question I had about letting go without regret, because that was a good one. What's one thing that you would tell 22-year-old Jeff? Not you, Jeff, not me, Jeff, to be all the way clear. With your 22-year-old self, to keep from being in the thick of thin things.
Number one, I wouldn't go back and tell 22-year-old Jeff.
Now, interesting. Okay.
Anything.
Okay.
Because things have worked out how they're supposed to work out.
Fair.
Number one. Number two, 22-year-old Jeff wouldn't have heard what I said. He didn't give a rat's. Like, he didn't.
Yeah.
People don't hear
He already
it.
knew everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't need help from old guy 49-year-old Jeff.
You're
like,
such a loser.
You're such
49.
a loser, dude. You're so bald. That mustache is
Might as well give up.
sketchy. You're wearing glasses now? Like,
Oh,
what?
man.
What the heck's wrong with you,
Nature's
bro?
winning.
Anyway, I mean, I'm being harsh. Yeah, like I'm being harsh.
But that's how you are when you're that, like you have that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
part of
number
learning.
one, I
It's a-
wouldn't do it because it's worked out how it's supposed to. Number two, no one hears anything they're not ready for.
Yeah.
Ever in life. So this book does not resonate. My book, the last book written by a human, does not resonate with people that aren't ready for it. For people who are ready for it, they hear it, they see it, and they're like, wow, like, they're really into it. There have been some people who have read it, some close to me, that have been like, I didn't really get it. I don't get it. I don't care, whatever, move on. Okay. So anyways, 22-year-old Jeff wouldn't have been ready for that. But so here's what I would do. I'd go back to 22-year-old Jeff and I'd give him a big hug. I'd try to help him feel something, not know something in his mind, feel something in his heart. And I'd just tell him it's going to all be okay. Like, it's going to work out okay. You like, slow down, relax, chill out. It's going to all be okay. And again, I probably wouldn't even have said those things. I would have tried to communicate those things via a hug or via love. Like, it's going to be okay. It's all going to be okay. It's all going to be beautiful. The ups and the downs, the dark nights of the soul, even. It's going to be beautiful.
How did magic mushrooms help you get to know love?
Yeah, that's
and
so
deeper
funny.
level?
I was just going to say that a minute. Like, I was going to say, even the mushrooms, it's
I'd love
going
to
to be
talk about it now.
okay.
Let's do it.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because that's something growing up, Mormon, there's a strict word of wisdom.
Yeah.
And the, I guess, first substance stronger than Diet Coke or sugar that I had in my body was a mushroom, and a psychedelic mushroom. And so, and that was a meaningful experience to me. I'm not advocating it for everyone. I'm, obviously this is illegal in some places. It can be dangerous, certainly to how you see the world. It's going to change how you see the world. I don't think they're physically dangerous, really, and they're not addictive in my experience at all. But, so even the mushrooms, 22-year-old Jeff, even the mushrooms are going to be okay. Because I lost the governor's race into the summer of 2020. I dove back into the venture work that I had missed as I ran a statewide campaign for 18 months. And obviously, the far and away, the most interesting technology was AI, and that's what the book becomes about.
Yeah.
But something that I couldn't help seeing during the global pandemic and the mental health crisis was there was a lot of psychedelic assisted therapy investment happening that year. I had heard of psychedelics. I knew nothing about them. I had heard of mushrooms, magic mushrooms, quote unquote. I knew nothing about them. I thought there was there must be something added to a mushroom. No, it's just literally a mushroom from the earth. But I knew nothing about it, but I started doing research on it for about a year. Number one, because it was an interesting area of investment in 2020. And number two, just to be honest with you, my soul was like calling me towards that. And I could feel that. And it was so foreign to me again, as you know, growing up LDS, having been a bishop and all the things. It took me a year, but in the end, I think I say this in the book, I felt, to put it in Mormon language, I felt commanded to eat this mushroom after doing research for a full year. And I felt very conflicted, as you can imagine, about it. In fact, I say this in the book too. It's the only secret I've ever had from my wife, Sally. I flew to our lake cabin. I ate a mushroom with one of my best friends from high school, the only person I knew who had any experience with, quote unquote drugs. I view these things as plant medicine for sure now, but that was the only person I knew. And I had this experience. I told Sal a couple weeks later. She handled it really well, and I planned on telling her. I just didn't want to freak her out as I went there. So for me, it was a very transformative experience. It opened my heart in a lot of ways. It helped me feel things that needed to be felt. It helped me release things that needed to be released. And so, there's a lot of clinical trials going on with a lot of these substances. They're very helpful in PTSD experiences. And I had PTSD in my own way. We all do, in some form or fashion. And I found it to be very insightful, very therapeutic, very emotional, not easy, but helpful in my journey. And I don't regret it. And I certainly didn't feel, quote unquote, bad or wrong to me in any stretch. In fact, it kind of felt the opposite. This is speaking for me and my soul. And so anyways, good question.
Was there any fear as you got ready for it?
A ton of fear, of course. I was praying the entire time. I prayed all the way there. I prayed all the way during the experience. And I just say that, again, I say this in the book, I think, but about an hour into the experience, quote unquote, God came to me and said, Jeff, he said what I just, what I think the reason I thought of the mushrooms he said what I said to my 22-year-old self. He said, Jeff, he just gave me a hug and said, it's okay. It's going to be okay. You're in the right place, doing the right thing at the right time. Relax. Let's try to get on to the real work that you have to do here, the real excavation. Let's look at some of the ways that you show up for people that aren't helpful, that aren't good, that places you could be better at for the people you love. That he kind of gave me a hug in that regard, kind of like I would to my 22-year-old self. Actually, very kind of similar. So, but of course I was fearful. I had no experience with these things. When I say fearful, I had done enough research. I knew it wasn't going to be physically harmful. But one of the things that happens in an experience like this is the ego just kind of dissolves or disappears. And so you're kind of laid bare and naked, so to speak. And you have to look at yourself in a very honest and reflective way. And you have to face the mirror of reality, let's say. And
As AI becomes more prevalent in our lives and information becomes more readily available, what do you think happens to the value of the struggle? As our lives become easier because of AI, what happens to the value of the struggle?
It's all about the struggle. And that's what we're going to remember. One of the things that we'll remember is the beauty in being human, and the beauty is in the mess or the struggle. So we'll lean back into the struggle. We will make things harder for ourselves intentionally. We will, in a lot of ways, we'll recognize the beauty in the struggle. Again, as AI acts as a mirror to us, it's going to remind us of damn, I like people. Like, I know I'm an introvert and sometimes I need my time, my space. But if I'm just talking to a machine the whole time, this gets pretty lonely. Like, I love people, even though they don't always agree with me, even though they don't always meet my expectations, even though, and so that's, we'll lean into, I hope, real relationships. Another way will be the struggle. My life is so easy, but I need the struggle. I need the struggle to transform and grow. So how do I create struggle within myself? And by the way, a great way to do that is to look inside, because we all have struggle, pain, trauma inside that we hide from, that we won't look at. That's why we don't take the time to look inside. We actually don't want to go there. But when everything, I'm speaking very generally here, but you'll get, I think, what I'm saying. When everything in the outside world is taken care of by my robot, what's left?
Yeah.
My internal world that only I can go to, that only I can work on, that only I can see and feel and observe. And I think it will point us there, and we'll find the struggle there, and we'll do the work that we needed to do. We'll do the work that we need to do. Actually, I'm getting clarity and insight to this as I'm speaking about it, which is interesting and cool. Like, when the struggle outside of us is taken care of, we go to the real struggle, which is inside of us. That's all that's left. And that's what AI can't do for us.
Well, there's the value then. That's why. Even if only 5 people listen to it, at least you have some new insights.
Yeah.
So a new tradition I'm starting on the podcast is, if you could go back, well, let's say that we could get your younger self to read this book, but you could give your younger self any book to have them read at any age. What book would that be? Obviously,
well, I'd give
your
this,
book.
I'd give
yeah,
my book,
okay.
because my younger self would not believe the story. Like,
All right.
he would think it's fiction. This hasn't really happened. This isn't how it's going to happen. This isn't what's going on. But anyways, another one of my favorite books is Rick Rubin's Creative Act, Life, a Creative Act, I think it's called. It's all about the creative process. I love that book.
Okay.
So I just love the creative process. I think I'm an artist at heart, but there's a lot of creativity, of course, too, in startups and in deal making. And so I would have loved to read that book when I was younger and apply some of those creative principles to more of my work in life earlier. So there's another one I would have, and there's a ton. I mean, yeah.
If you have another one on your mind,
I mean, Falling Upward from Richard Rohr, game-changing book. Eckhart Tolle's work, amazing. Awareness by Anthony DeMello, life-changing. Some of Brian Singer's stuff. Anyways, like, there's just been so many books. Like, I don't know.
Thanks. I like it.
The Bhagavad Gita, powerful. The Tao Te Ching, amazing. Like, other scriptures from other faith traditions, totally impactful.
I like it. Thank you. Well, look, Jeff, this has been awesome. I think that's about the end of it.
Do you want to do the rapid fire?
Yeah, let's do. I was just going to do a wrap up on the formal podcast. So I was just going to say thanks. I think people are going to love this. And is there any parting thoughts you want to give the main audience? I
wrote the last book written by a human, to be a conversation starter. That's what it's meant. So it's meant to start conversations between humans like this.
Yeah.
Definitely in boardrooms and in religious halls. I mean, I talk about reforming religion, about conscious capitalism, about a new political movement, even the human political movement. So it was meant to be, but especially around the dinner table, like, we're parents, we have kids, we have families, and we need to discuss what AI is going to be, and how we ensure that as our machines become more and more intelligent, we become more wise. So the point is, let's continue the conversation. I've had my first community event with a couple of hundred people a couple weeks ago. We'll have another one coming up in April. So I'm not hard to find on social media. The book's not hard to find. Like, take a look at the book, take a listen, and then be in touch. Like, talk to me. Tell me your thoughts and feelings. Let's continue the conversation.